This special crossover episode of Old Fashioned Football and NASCAR Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, a sports betting research platform for parlays, props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. We're also brought to you by KUTT. KUTT is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's U.S. based and legal in 40 states. In the App Store, that's KUTT, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. And we're brought to you by the SGPN NFL Playoff Challenge, sponsored by Edge Boost. Free to enter, and $20,000 in Edge Boost deposit bonuses up for grabs. Enter today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/NFL playoff.
Hey, what's up? This is Sam Acho, and you're listening to Old Fashioned Football.
Old-fashioned football.
You make this deal right now, you pancake-eating mother.
All right, deal.
Old-fashioned football.
Welcome to Old Fashioned Football. We're sitting here silent because it's lagging on our side. And I was watching it on the YouTube on my phone, and I look up, and there are these beautiful faces. Before I keep going, if you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, if you're listening on a podcast streaming platform, because that's a thing still. It's not just the YouTubes and the Instas and all that. This is J Mark. You can find me on X at JMarkFootball. And we are at Old Fashioned FB. And this is an amazing episode because it's a crossover with the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, guys. I don't know who I should introduce first. Let me do my co-host on the pod and in life first. You can find her at X at the Mur Mark. Mur, I'll ask you how you're doing in a second. Next, I'll introduce at RJ Villa Gomez. Rod Villa Gomez, you guys, you should all know Rod. Rod has been in the podcast and sports, writing, betting, everything you can think of, even wrestling bets, right? Everything you can think of. Rod, how you doing today?
I'm fantastic. And for those of you listening on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, welcome in to an episode of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast as well. So excited to have a crossover. Dare I say, the four best hosts on the entire SGPN network. I'm telling you right now, this is easily the top four of the group. So the fact that you have all four of us under one roof, guys, you are in for a treat. This is going to be a lot of fun, talking football, talking racing, drinking whiskey. I mean, damn it. An off-season episode can't get much better than this.
Absolutely. Do you want to introduce your co-host, or you want me to?
I'm Rod Villa Gomez. He's Cody Zeeb. We are here again, like we said, with the crossover episode. Cody, buddy, I mean, look, first of all, if you're watching YouTube, which you should already be doing so, we both got the memo. But then again, I am also supporting my love for Old Fashioned by wearing the T-shirt. But you guys can't see it, and I'm not going to flash all of you here. But yeah, Cody, buddy, welcome to the crossover, and excited to be teaming up with this wonderful duo of folks that we got up here in the left corner.
Save the best for last. It's always a solid plan. Way to go. Appreciate it.
You need to work on his intro. He needs a bigger intro.
Miranda kept pointing at the screen.
Not come on the show to be shamed.
Welcome to the chat. Always fresh, never soggy. Missed the 100th episode, but glad for crossover episode 1. Welcome. Yes. Yeah, we're going to be talking fantasy football and NASCAR. Why don't we just kick it off with NASCAR? Is there any big news going on right now? I don't follow racing, but you guys make it entertaining. Anything of note to mention right now?
Cody's our news guy. Cody, I know we talked a lot about it, a lot about stuff yesterday, but I think there's actually been a pretty decent news story that kind of, it didn't really break, but it's sneaking up on us. I just watched okay, fine.
Okay, I got you. I know where you're going with this now.
I just watched the trailer.
Yes.
For the new NASCAR show that is going to be on Netflix. I am pumped. This is a kind of a take on what the F1 has already done with Drive to Survive. Indy, who did it with Road to Indy. NASCAR, a little late to the documentary part, or they had one a couple seasons ago, but
well, yeah, they had the one on USA, which we're not going to count that one. This one is Netflix quality, dude. Just watching the trailer, like, so freaking pumped. It's coming out, I think it's end of the month, like the 30th of January, right before the Clash of the Coliseum, right before the Daytona 500. Gonna get us pumped, gonna get the juices flowing. I am ready to go. We're getting closer to racing season. We're lucky in that sense. I know fantasy football, as obviously I'm an avid player. The off season is long. I mean, there's not really an off season because we're all in a draft together right now. But it's the NASCAR off season, very short. Ours is almost over, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah. And your fantasy football season doesn't have to be over because there's the FFPC playoff challenge. Yes. And check back at Old Fashioned Football tomorrow because we're going to be previewing even what that is, kind of going over what that is, and giving out lineups. And
we're going to share our lineups that we're submitting.
And we got a little house wager as well on whose lineup is going to do better. Terms to be determined here. That's up to you.
Up to me.
I don't know if those could be shared on the pod. But
I thought you were going somewhere different with it.
Mer's odd have to be somewhere in the minus 300, minus 350 range, right?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So, if people are tuning into the NASCAR Gambling Podcast and haven't heard us, we're obviously a husband and wife duo. We talk fantasy football and we talk whiskey. And if you're tuning into us and you haven't heard these guys, they talk NASCAR, they talk F1, they talk all things racing. I'm curious because I never got into racing. I mean, I've seen it every now and then, but I never got really into it. So I'm curious, how'd you guys get into racing? Like what about it? When did you first, I guess, start watching it? And what about it popped to you?
Cody, I'll let you go because you've been a lot longer than me.
Yeah. So I started about 2.5 years old. My grandparents, huge racing fans. They would take me for the weekend and we would go to the local dirt tracks. We had a Friday night stop. We had a Saturday night stop. We had a Sunday night stop. Spent the weekends at the racetrack. And we'd watch NASCAR, of course, on Saturday afternoons before we went to the racetrack. And so, yeah, it's just been ingrained in me since I was a little kid, and it's always stuck with me. I love racing. Local dirt tracks, still a lot of fun. Love to get to them as much as I can. And, it's obviously, my love for fantasy sports and gambling has brought the two together, and it's a beautiful combination.
Yeah, and again, that's why Cody's always been the go-to for this show. Immediately after we started the NASCAR, or at least I had the idea for the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, my first thing was to reach out to Cody because in the then, what was Slack channel back then?
Slack channel, yep.
Yeah. Cody was tearing it up, and everybody would turn to him for advice. So I was like, I got to get the smart guy in the room, the one that's been watching a lot longer than me, to answer some questions. By the way, hello to Dos Flacos, our buddy over there in the chat as well. Joining us on this end. So what's up, Dos? But for me, my NASCAR journey started in 2003. I watched the 2003 Daytona 500 with my brother. It was a rainout year, and I was just, okay. He goes, you have to watch this with me. It's Daytona. It's the best race in the entire world. And I wasn't really into NASCAR. I used to make fun of NASCAR because that's the kind of person I was.
Justin does.
Left turns, what?
A lot of left turns.
So then I watched that one, and so my brother goes, "Well, is this something that you liked?" And I thought, yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty interesting. The coverage was all right. And being the sports fan that I was, I decided I'd give it a shot. He goes, "Okay, you got 3 races to pick a champion or pick a driver that you like, and report back to me in those 3." So I went back to New York. I started watching NASCAR. 3 races later, I said, "I like this Jimmy Johnson kid. I think he's going to do some good things. I like him. He's from California. He's around my age, drives a cool car. I think I'll root for Jimmy Johnson." Safe to say, after 7 championships, I made the right call, and I stuck with it. So,
that's such a similar story to me becoming a Patriots fan. Like, I picked them right before the first Super Bowl, and then I just went on to win 6, and I was like, yes, this is great.
This is people don't know what it's like to not win championships. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're Bears fans. We don't.
Iowa fans too.
And Iowa fans. Speaking of Iowa, Cody, I'm just curious. This is really off topic, but are you getting the cold that we're getting this weekend?
Oh, yes. I believe the high on Saturday is -4. It's going to get down to -17. And we got 9.2 inches of snow the other day. And tomorrow night, they're saying another 7 to 10. So here we are.
We got 10.
Yeah, 10 to 12. I saw it. Depends who you ask. Depends on the drifts, all that stuff. Miranda, have you ever watched NASCAR? I don't think you've ever mentioned watching NASCAR.
I've never mentioned
there's a
it to
NASCAR
you,
race
but
like 30
I
minutes from you
feel
guys this
like
year.
I know.
We gotta
have
get you over there.
seen it on TV.
I feel like I've seen it one time. That's
I watched it briefly when Matt Kenseth was driving the DeWalt car. I remember that. I thought he was pretty cool. I don't know what drew me to that. I don't know if I just liked the colors of the DeWalt car. I don't know what it was.
17 at the time, right?
Yeah. Yep. And aside from that, I think the last full race I watched was in the Pixar movie Cars.
Hey, a lot of the NASCAR stars were in that one.
Yeah.
You were pulling for Cruz. Don't get it twisted. You wanted Cruz to win that race.
Yeah. And speaking of NASCAR and racing and everything, we talk whiskey. We're tying this all together. I'm going to kick this over to you because I always ask you, what are we drinking today?
Today we are drinking WhistlePig, or a whiskey from WhistlePig, from their Piggyback Legend series. Oh, there we go. It's a single barrel Alfa Romeo F1 team steak barrel.
Yeah.
And it is finished with lychee and oolong tea.
And I just took a drink of my old fashioned, and it definitely changes the taste of an old fashioned. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about the whiskey, a little bit about the background of it and all that good stuff. But first, before we keep going, we got to tell you where you can get down on some bets. And you can get down on some bets at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL playoffs, is bringing you an offer that'll help make the playoffs electrifying. New customers can bet $5 on any game and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. We're going to ask these guys their Super Bowl prediction in a minute here, and you can get down on the futures bets at DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code SGP. New customers can get $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code SGP. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE New York or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problems gambling. Call 888-77-897-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, ages varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
Listen, you hate buying tickets. I hate buying tickets. Nobody enjoys purchasing tickets. We love going to the events, but buying tickets has become so damn stressful lately that you just don't even want to do it. These favorite apps of yours that you go to buy them, sometimes they gouge you, especially when you're trying to buy last-minute tickets. And listen, for me, I hardly know where I'm going 10 minutes from now, let alone 2 days from now. So I never know if I'm going to be able to make an event when I have enough time to actually buy a ticket without all the stress. Whew. But thank goodness Gametime is around to take away all of the stress for us, because they not only are going to give me the peace of mind of knowing that I'm not going to get gouged trying to buy last minute tickets, but they're also going to give me the best, lowest prices, the lowest fees. They're going to take all of my stress and put it all in the palm of my hand and make the tickets appear on my phone magically and not digging through some sort of inbox or even waiting by my mailbox not so patiently, trying to find out whether tickets are going to get to me or not. Plus, I'm going to get a picture. I'm going to get to be able to see what I'm looking at before I even get to look at it. So I'm telling you right now, folks, you need to go over to Gametime if you would like to buy tickets without the stress. Playoffs are coming, right? The NFL playoffs are around the corner. Daytona's around the corner. If you want to buy tickets for that, you got plenty of time for all of that. So you don't have to worry about last minute tickets. But if you can't, procrastinate a little bit and you need to back up, that's fine. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code CFBX for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code CFBX for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
I love that those are back to back, because maybe you don't have the money, but you're hoping for that little flyer on your Super Bowl futures to get you the money to get the draft or the Daytona 500 tickets. Rod, I think I already know this answer, but who's winning the Super Bowl?
Okay, for those of you who don't know, I'm a San Francisco 49er fan, as you can tell by this little license plate above me. So I'm contractually obligated to say that it's the San Francisco 49ers, and there's no other team that's going to win.
Cody?
Well, I've got a 50-1 ticket on the Los Angeles Rams, so that's my hopeful pick.
I like it. Miranda.
You know, I haven't put a lot of thought into who I think is going to
Joe
win.
Flacco and the Browns.
I thought you were going to say the Bills because you kind of like
the Bills.
I
Never
do,
win
but I'm
anything.
not. I don't think it's them.
And it's not your Mahomie this year. You are a Chiefs backer when it comes to fantasy football.
I know.
I think it's going to be Ravens and 49ers in the Super Bowl.
You have been saying that.
Yes. For the sake of Rod, I won't
That's
say
your
who I'm
number
picking
one
as the
seed.
winner.
What a crazy prediction.
Right. Awful chalky. It's only happened since 1975. It's only happened. Now I don't remember the stat, like 19 times, I think. So it's not like it happens super often.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, that's who I think is going to make it. Dos Flacos has a WhistlePig 12-year batch. Nice.
Nice.
Love WhistlePig. Everything I've had from
They
them
had
is
that
good.
at wall to wall.
Did they?
That was one of their isn't that it's a top shelf bottle.
Top shelf
Let's just say
bottle.
that.
Yes. J. Mark and Murr, always welcome to come over and watch Dirt Track Racing with Nick. Cody is welcome as well. Rod 100%. So I think that means all of us are like 90 to 95.
It's like, okay, we can come with,
Yeah.
but Rod,
We have
absolutely.
a dirt track bias, but it's not.
We do have
It's
a
not-
dirt track
it's-
here
isn't
in
it just
Winterset
dirt
too.
bikes?
Yeah, dirt
Well,
bikes.
Nick and I are both Niner fans, so
Knoxville's
no-brainer.
not that far, right?
Knoxville's not far.
No.
Yeah.
What's your guys' favorite
That's
race
what you
track?
need to do.
Racetrack. Did you ask us this already, Nick?
Yeah, well,
I
yeah,
feel
he
like you already
did. He
asked.
did submit this question. He did submit this question. Obviously, he has not listened to our episode yet. Jeez, Nick, go back and listen.
Rude.
But, no, mine was just a cheeseburger. Like I love just a regular cheeseburger at the racetrack, especially the dirt track. You get a little dirt and oil, motor oil fumes poured in there, makes it extra delicious. Love a good old cheeseburger at the racetrack.
Seeing as though Sonoma is my closest one, and that is big time garlic country. Give me garlic fries all day long
That
because
sounds good.
they pretty much just grow the garlic right on top of those fries, and that's what you're getting out of it. So I love it.
All right, I'll take a burger with a side of garlic fries. Works for me. Go Cowboys. We're gonna turn it over to you guys for a little bit. Kind of you talk. I'm letting you, as I said earlier, off the show. I said you guys got the driver's seat, pun intended. But if you guys want to hit on, like, for people that listen to us that don't know anything about NASCAR, how you approach betting in NASCAR, overview of kind of your favorite type of bets, that's cool. Otherwise, take it away.
All right, so here we are at our portion of it. This is what makes us be able to be a crossover, is that we're going to put a little bit of a twist on each of it for us. So as far as NASCAR, look, for those of you who are listening and you haven't tuned out yet, thank you very much for that, first and foremost. Second of all, look, if you're itching for some betting action, and I know that, a lot of folks are fantasy players here, but you're also bettors as well. And there's NASCAR fantasy for you as well. So if you really want some fantasy action during the offseason, NASCAR's got fantasy. There's fantasy on NASCAR.com. You can play DFS, and we cover that as well in our shows. But listen, it's not just betting the winners. And that's where the misconception comes when it comes to, oh, well, you're betting on racing, you're betting on the winners. You can do that. And we're going to give you our picks every single week on who we think is going to win. But the books also give you opportunities to bet on top threes, top fives, group bets as far as who's going to finish the highest in a certain group. There's several different ways to bet in NASCAR. In F1, there's even way more to bet on in Indy and all that other stuff. So it's not just betting on who's going to take home the checkered flag. And that's really what turns a lot of people off of NASCAR. And even in fantasy, it's the same thing. Positions, right? There you get graded on positions and scored points on positions. And there's a lot of different moving parts. And it makes watching the race, Cody, and we know this because we've talked about this for the last couple of years, having that level of being able to know that you're not just paying attention to the top of the you're paying attention to what's going on in 25th to 30th. Like, you care about 32nd position because that means that your driver finished better than another driver. And in a head-to-head, sometimes that makes the difference, right? And in DFS, laps led, and all that other good stuff. So, I mean, listen, NASCAR is an exciting world of opportunity that not a lot of people think about because all they think about is, well, all we care about is who wins the race. No, sir. No, sir.
Yeah, that's the biggest point. So for me, NASCAR is no different than watching a football game. It's almost the same exact thing when you're betting on it, when you're playing fantasy on it, because yeah, the outcome of the game and who wins by how many points or which driver wins the race, you can have money on that, and that's great. And we found some really big bets to hit on that, and that's a lot of fun too. But like Rod said, it's everything. The race within the race, that's what you're watching. So you're betting on a football game, and you want, DJ Moore over here to catch 4 passes, and he's got 3, and it's coming to the end, and the Bears are losing by 100, but you're still invested because DJ Moore needs 1 more catch, and I catch the over. Or same thing on the fantasy part of it, right? In fantasy NASCAR, they're all scored a little differently, but laps led make a difference. If you got the fastest lap, each lap you get points for that. Passing cars get a difference. And yeah, with the head bets or the group bets we have, you can be watching the battle for the lead, but half the time you're looking at the leaderboard on the side and you're watching the battle for 24th, because that's just as important to you as the battle for the lead. So it really is, very similar to betting on football, where you've got the game within the game on football, you've got the race within the race. And then for us, we cover the Cup Series, which races every Sunday, but the Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, which are kind of the other 2 levels right underneath the NASCAR, we get super in-depth on those, and they have all the same options. When it comes to DFS, when it comes to betting, we get a full weekend. 3 of those races, you toss in F1, you toss in IndyCar, SRX gets odds out there every once in a while. We cover all of that stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And again, it's a long season. It goes from February to November. So you've got a long time to be betting almost every single weekend on racing, and it's very addicting. And again, just like with football, it gets you more invested when you have some skin in the game.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things, I've done some DFS kind of following your guys's guidance, I guess, on the podcast for NASCAR. Cause again, don't know a lot about it, but I've done some DFS, and I have to say one of my favorite things about keeping up with it, just watching the DFS, and I shouldn't say it's my favorite because it means a bad thing, but the little car that's overturned when they wreck, it cracks me up every time to see that little car just turned over. And I'm like, the first time I feel
like it's Nick Fortune that might've said it, but somebody said to me once, they're like, imagine when people get butthurt about a football player getting injured and they're not used to betting on NASCAR. Like, wrecks are just a part of it. So yeah, your guy gets knocked out early. Yep, shit happens. That's part of betting on it.
And then he will be the little flipped over car. I don't know, just something about it makes me laugh every time. Again, shouldn't be my favorite thing because it's bad for my lineup, but it cracks me up either way.
Well, and it's funny because especially on super speedways where you could have a lineup where all 6 of your cars are all little red cars that are tipped over, and then it's not funny anymore. But it certainly
kind of is funny because you hit.
Well,
and Justin laughed extra hard.
Then that makes a perfect race for Justin. He's like, I did it. I would
yes.
cars.
That should be worth something if you can pick all people that crash. Just saying.
Look at Wolf of Oaklawn in here. If I were to bet Chase in NASCAR every race, I could retire next year.
You got a couple of Chase options.
Briscoe, Chase Elliott.
Yeah, Chase Briscoe. You're probably not going to bet on as much, but sometimes.
Do it. Listen, if you bet on Chase Briscoe and he hits, you could probably have a nice little day.
It is interesting, because I've listened to you guys a lot, because whether you like racing or not, you guys are extremely entertaining. And just the names that I've picked up, I'm like, oh, I'll see it on Fox. I'm sure we've all seen it on Fox watching football, that they're pushing NASCAR hard right now because Daytona 500 is coming up and everything. And they mention the names. I'm like, oh, I know that guy. I remember that name anyway. So awesome. It is always fun. Do you have any questions right now for Rod or Cody on NASCAR betting?
No, I'm learning.
She just wants to know why. That's all. Why NASCAR? What is it about it?
So and it's not too fantasy. There's fantasy, or you just mean DFS?
No, there's fantasy.
There's fantasy.
You think I'm in a lot of fantasy football leagues?
Okay, now I need to know.
Let me introduce you to my fantasy NASCAR league.
Do you have a separate spreadsheet for your fantasy NASCAR?
What's that?
Do you have a separate spreadsheet?
Yeah. So it's a little fantasy NASCAR, and there's a bunch of different games. I'm in probably, I would say, close to 15 different ones, and there's different levels of it. It's not like fantasy football where you draft and you have the waiver wires. It's a little harder to do that because you're limited on the drivers, and there's certain drivers who are just a lot better. And so a lot of it is like salary cap stuff, which is similar to DFS, or there's groups, like you got to pick two guys from this group, and there's different ways to score each game. So they're all a little different. So it's a little less that goes into it than fantasy football. It's kind of like you just set your lineup on a Saturday after qualifying or whatever, and you kind of go with that. But you got to keep track of, what you're trying to get out of each one. And So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, there's all sorts of different. Look out there, hit me up. I can set you up with some of the leagues. There's all kinds of leagues out there that do it different ways and have different scoring. And then DFS, of course, Underdog. They've got all 3 NASCAR series. They've got F1 for, the over-under picks. And you can do, I think they have over-under fantasy points sometimes, or finishing position, or F1 will have starting position, stuff like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of different ways to get involved.
Hey, Juke. Thanks
Shout out
for
to Juke.
Yeah.
Look, I actually was in a redraft a couple of seasons ago for NASCAR, and that, my friends, you want to talk about, you get mad in a redraft when somebody snags your pick and snipes you. Imagine only having 30 some odd drivers to pick from, and you're stuck with the 5th pick in the 3rd round, and you're like, do I want BJ McLeod or do I want
he should be the last pick, but
I'd rather take his Jackman, and I'd rather take Ricky Bobby at that point.
See, what we need to do, Rod, and this is our goal for the 2025 season, is build some type of league like that, incorporating all 3 series and make it intricate, because that would make it a little more evened out if you've got all 3 series in there.
You guys just hit on gold on the show. Look at Woo.
I think I'm gonna write that idea down right now, because we're gonna invent that for the 2025 season.
That's beautiful. Look at that. You guys are sparking ideas all left and right.
Love it. One of the places that maybe can get down on some NASCAR is KUTT, and KUTT is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's U.S. based and legal in 40 states. It's a peer-to-peer social betting, and it's the new and better way to bet. Bet directly against your friends or others on sports, politics, pop culture, and other events with verifiable outcomes, plus tons of fun social features that give it the feel of betting social network. Rod and I are actually placing a bet on who's going to win The Bachelor. Just kidding. I don't know if Rod watches The Bachelor, but I do not. But KUTT offers lower vig and fully customizable odds. Create your own bets. They handle the payment side of things, so you never have to chase anyone down for dollars. No breaking kneecaps. Plus, there's social features like group chats, betting leaderboards, head-to-head history, user profiles, fan groups, and more. Get cash back every single time you bet against your friends or other users. Download KUTT today in the App Store. That's KUTT, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% bonus deposit bonus. That's KUTT, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by PrizePicks on Old Fashioned Football. If you want to play alongside some of your favorite PrizePicks players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz. I don't know who those guys are, but maybe you do. You can now find community plays under the promos tab to the app to view entries and some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. My favorite thing about PrizePicks is they offer a reboot policy. Let's say your player gets injured, a la Sam Laporta, in the first half, and he doesn't come back in that second half. That's okay. It doesn't count against you. He's rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance platform, and they offer weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. The only thing better than Taco Tuesday is Whiskey Wednesday. They're releasing the line slowly on these playoffs. One of the ones that I like is Mike Evans. Just take more on everything. The Eagles defense, not that great. And I think Mike Evans is going to have a heck of a game. Go to prizepicks.com/SGPN and use code SGPN for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/SGPN, code SGPN. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Jokes on you, Justin. I did play in a Bachelor Fantasy League once upon a time. So I may not be up on it this year, but I do know how to get in on it.
Oh, love it. Nick Fortune can't wait for the call-in line for the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Is one of the best bets for new people. I have one more, NASCAR question here before we talk a little fantasy football, but is it manufactured to win the race? Because that's one that I have found, like, you don't have to know a ton about the actual race car drivers. You can look at, like, let's see the past 5, what manufacturer has won, and kind of lay some action that way. What do you guys think about that one for beginners?
That it's a good one. That's one we've hit on multiple times. Rod specifically seems to love to pull that one out. And a lot of times you can kind of find a disadvantage. There was a race, I don't remember, I think it was this past season, but where Ford had won the race like 8 of the last 9 times, but they were kind of having a down season. Everybody was looking past them, and it was like the way that they are on that specific track, they seem to dominate that track. It's in Michigan. They care more about that track for those reasons. And so, yeah, that's one that you can find definite advantages. I think you got like a plus 550, plus 600 on something like that. That's another thing, too, that we always joke about. when it comes to the racing bets is a lot of the bets we have are plus money bets. And, you get something that's like minus 130, and in football, that's fairly normal, right? And we're always kind of like minus 130. It's kind of gross, but like you should take this one. But it's funny because it's so different in the NASCAR world. You do get a lot of plus money bets, which is a really nice thing.
Yeah, and that's another good thing too. Joe Flacco's race to go to OT. Yeah, I mean those are the types of things where, and I said before, you can find so many different ways to bet these races that a lot of times you're not even paying attention to unless you put a decent wager on who's going to win. You're paying attention to all the other stuff that you can do, and like Cody said, these 40 to 1s, these 30 to 1s. Anytime we bring it up, do we hit a 33 to 1 someplace? Then everybody else is like, oh my God, and we're just like, yeah, that's just a Sunday. I mean, it's
yeah, and so I mean, like last year on the week after the championship games, there's a race in between the championship games for football and the Super Bowl, and it's played inside the LA Memorial Coliseum where USC plays their football games. They're currently building a racetrack that's temporary in there, and they'll tear it down after the race. But we started the season off last year with a 33 to 1 for the top finishing Ford. And so, the guy, I think he ended up finishing 7th or 8th place, but still he was the best finishing Ford in the race. And so you can cash on that. So another, you don't have to nail the guy who wins, or, he was in 7th place and yet he cashes us a nice solid, bet to move on to use that money in the Super Bowl and then roll it to the Daytona 500.
All right. Educate the newbie here. How does a race go to overtime? I know what that means in football, but what's that mean in racing necessarily?
It's the same thing. Just, extra laps, right? Instead of extra quarter, it's extra laps. So NASCAR's got a rule. Basically, if the caution flag comes out before the white flag, and the white flag is the last lap, if you've taken the white flag, then the next flag will end the race, whether it's a caution or a checkered. But if the caution comes out before the white flag drops and they run to the limits or to the scheduled distance, you go to overtime, which is a green, white, checkered finish. So they'll throw the green flag to start the race. You come back around to the white flag and then the checkered flag. If you don't get back to the white flag, same thing. You go to double overtime. And they will have endless overtimes until they reach either the white flag or the the final checkered flag. So that's and if you can find race to go to OT for the Daytona 500, smash that, because that is the race everyone wants to win. It is going to be action-packed finish. And I'd have to look how many times it's gone to overtime recently, but I'm fairly certain it's been quite a few times, which screwed us out of a bet last year because we had the guy that was leading at the end of regulation, which was unfortunate, but that's okay.
Yeah, it used to be that the race would end no matter if the caution came out, it didn't matter, it would just end. That would be the end of the race. Okay. And race fans were pissed because it was like, well, we don't want to see a race end under the yellow flag because there's no racing, right? So then NASCAR was like, all right, fine. Well, we'll give you an opportunity to finish the race under green conditions. And so they came up with the playoff thing. But again, for years and years and years and years and years, the race was just over. If the caution fell.
Before that, they used to race back to the caution flag, which was, so there'd be a wreck on the track and the rule would be race back to the line, which is not safe, obviously. So they've changed that since. NASCAR's, they're pretty good on the safety these days, but yes. And then they implemented after that this overtime rule, which is great. It provides with great finishes, and again, it gives you the feeling of getting to the end of the race and not just ending under the yellow flag where it's like
Nice. All right, we're gonna flip a little from NASCAR to fantasy football, and we got a little this or that type of questions, like this player or that player for you guys. The points are all made up. It's like, whose line is it anyways? Nobody wins or loses. It's kind of like the college playoff football committee. Wins don't matter. So,
Michigan's splitting another national championship, just like they did in '97. That shouldn't have counted, but it's all right.
Exactly. Some of these questions, so we're going to kind of recap the playoffs. So the week 15, 16th, and 17th, if your playoffs run into 18th, slap your commissioner, tell him to knock that shit off, because that's so many players sit. I saw people asking questions like, who do I start? This person's sitting. It's like, you shouldn't be playing.
You
that
shouldn't
week.
be.
What are you doing?
Yeah. What's the point of even playing the whole season if you're not going to have any of the players at the end?
Exactly. The playoffs weeks 15 through 17 had a lot of surprises, so you'll catch on. Some of these are going to trick you, but Brandon, do you want to start with quarterbacks? Do a little quarterback trivia for the playoffs.
Yes. And before we do a little bit of this or that, question for you guys. This player was drafted as the 26th quarterback off the board, but finished 5th after averaging 19.5 points per game. Who is it?
You want a buzzer? Was it CJ Stroud?
Oh, that was gonna be my
No.
guess. But I think he finished 7th. So,
Damn.
let's see. Jared Goff.
No.
Nick says Brock Purdy, but I don't think.
Nope.
All right, who was it?
I was gonna say, bro,
Yeah, we got to kick it off the
that
podcast.
hurt you guys.
I was gonna guess Jordan Love, but I figured it wouldn't be a Packer on this show. Come on.
Well, I tricked you there. First trick right away.
Tricked you there.
Okay. So again, this is assuming that your fantasy football playoffs ran weeks 15, 16, and 17. So, would you guys rather have in the playoffs Patrick Mahomes or Bailey Zappi?
Bailey Zappi.
Bailey Zappi.
Yeah. No.
Oh, was it really?
I was going to agree with you, but no.
I mean,
Mahomes.
As a Patriots fan, I
outscored
didn't want Bailey
Zappi.
Zappi either. But.
He did. So, speaking
not
of
by
Mahomes,
much, yeah, or what?
what?
I mean, it couldn't have been by much because Mahomes wasn't that great.
Not over the
Or was he?
he was
I don't know if he
not.
was better in the playoff run. I don't think so.
No, and this is where I had my stats and they're not with me right now. As we were
I
talking
think
about
Justin's comment before the show was stats don't matter.
Stats don't
Stat-
matter.
Stats do matter to me. They matter. So, speaking of Mahomes, would you rather have started Patrick Mahomes or Gardner Minshew?
Mitch.
Oh, that's easy, Minshew.
Yeah.
Yes. No.
You know what?
I don't really understand how this game works.
You know what's funny is that we're so convincing that even Miranda's like, the answer's in front of her. She's like, of course you'd start Minshew. What are you talking
We
about?
both had the same answer both
No,
times. She's like, oh, they gotta be
Mahomes
right.
outscored Minshew.
Really?
Okay, well,
Yep, he did.
See,
you still
He
shouldn't
sure
draft
did.
Mahomes in the first round.
no, you should.
Okay. We're sticking with the Mahomes theme here. Would
Okay.
you have rather started Mahomes for your playoff weeks or Brock Purdy?
Nick says Brock Purdy. It feels trappy because it's been Mahomes both times, but I'm
That's
still
what I'm
going with Brock Purdy.
Me too.
Brock Purdy. This one, yes.
Okay,
Brock
maybe.
Purdy.
All right, do you need a double
outscored
check? Are you
Mahomes.
sure?
No, I'm sure.
I was like, not 3 times in a row.
All right, let's do this. Aiden O'Connell or Russell Wilson?
Well, Russell Wilson didn't play, so it had to be O'Connell.
I'm going to have to say Aiden O'Connell as well. I mean, Russ did
Benched.
not cook. Yeah.
I was
Yes.
so high on Russell
future,
Wilson.
future
coming into the season.
New England Patriots quarterback Russell Wilson.
Mhm.
Hey, maybe him and Pete Carroll can get back together again now
There
somewhere.
you go.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm
Although
giving you
is
an
Russ
easy
eligible to
one.
play at Alabama? I don't know.
Oh. They'll make a special.
An easy one this time. Joe Flacco or Patrick
Joe
Mahomes?
Flacco.
Magical
Joe Flacco over everyone but Kyler Murray, right, Miranda?
I still would have picked him. 1 point doesn't matter.
1 point mattered to
It
them,
does, it
and I still
matters.
lost by a couple, but-
So, what was your answer, Rod?
Oh, Flacco, of course.
Yeah, he outscored Patrick Mahomes. Now, I'm going to take Aiden O'Connell and Patrick Mahomes. Who would you rather have had during the playoffs?
Who won that league, by the way, Nick? Let's see. This feels
I feel
like
like this is a Mahomes. This feels like a Mahomes.
yeah. I'm trying to think if
Because I know O'Connell did okay, but like,
Yeah, let's go
it wasn't
Mahomes.
spectacular.
Mahomes, final answer?
Yeah.
Well, now I'm not so sure, but yes.
Lock it in. I don't care.
I will let you know they were within 1 point of each other.
Oh, well,
How do you
we
know?
were
what your
close? We
stats?
were close either way.
Because I've got this.
Well, is this 4 point? Is it 6 point? Is it standard? Is it serious
O'Connell.
scoring?
Aiden
I,
O'Connell.
I heard 1 point doesn't matter, but
It
Yeah,
does.
yeah. So there, man.
It
Now
that
depends.
means we were right
Depends.
then.
It's situational. All right. Joe Flacco or Josh Allen?
Ooh, Josh Allen.
Nope, Flacco. Allen threw too many picks.
It
Yeah,
was
but picks don't
Flacco.
matter. That was it
Flacco
really?
outscored
Yeah.
Josh Allen during those.
I had
weeks.
Flacco carried me to a championship in a league, so I loved him. But
Jordan Love or Josh Allen?
Okay, that's Josh Allen.
No, Jordan Love was really good at the end.
Weeks 14, 15,
15, 16,
15,
17.
16, and 17.
Say
Yes.
Josh Allen.
Let's
Flacco
go
was
with
killing
Love.
it, but Allen
Just
is
to be-
better than.
Just to be different, Love.
Jordan Love outscored Josh Allen in those
I
weeks.
beat you, Rod.
Crazy.
Yes.
We're going to get to the rest of them in 1 second here, but we got to tell you about Hall of Fame bets. Miranda, you want to tell them a little bit
Yes.
about Hall of Fame bets?
Yeah, the NFL season is not over yet, and you can win bigger by betting smarter with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bet's revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value.
Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com and use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right. I'm going to cover running backs and wide receivers just so we don't keep everybody too long. We're going to rapid fire this. Of course, out of the whole season, biggest surprise, Raheem Mostert finished second with an ADP of 41, and then Kyron Williams finished third with an ADP of 71. So those guys got you a lot of value if you got them. Same thing, playoff talks. This or that, Joe Mixon or Derrick Henry.
Oh, I hate to say it, but Joe Mixon.
Yeah, Joe Mixon.
Mixon outscored Henry, David Montgomery, or Jahmyr Gibbs.
Gibbs at the
Gibbs.
end.
Gibbs.
Yep, in the
Just in
playoffs, not the
playoffs.
regular
No.
season.
No.
But
Who,
yeah, in the
who
playoffs.
called that
goes-
out of us two? Who said Monty would be better than Gibbs? She's not answering.
She's looking at her stats.
Yeah. So, would you rather have the RB8 on the year, Breece Hall, or RB23, James Conner?
Oh, Breece Hall
Connor.
tore it up at the end, so I'm going Breece Hall.
But Conner outscored him barely.
In the playoffs,
He did
really?
outscore him. Yep.
Mhm.
Because Hall had two massive weeks. I mean,
He
I had
did, yeah.
Connor
He
too,
did.
and he was great, but that's kind of surprising.
Connor had more touchdowns over that span.
This one's going to feel like a trap. Bijan Robinson or Chris Rodriguez Jr.?
Chris Rodriguez Jr.
Dude, who's Bijan Robinson?
Well, we'll know who he is now because he's been freed from Arthur's sin.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
Rodriguez did outscore him. Last one, the ADP of 2, 3, and 26. Would you rather have Bijan Robinson, Austin Eckler, or Zamir White?
Zamir White.
Zamir White outscored both of them combined. Which
So crazy.
Combined.
Yeah, I know. So if you had Bijan and Eckler, which you obviously, if they were 2 and 3, you invested a lot in, it did not pay off in the playoffs. Moving to wide receiver, biggest surprise, of course, was Puka Nacua. And though Mike Evans, not as old as a lot of people thought, Baker got him the ball. He outperformed his ADP by 30 spots. So playoff talks, Cooper Kupp or Rashee Rice?
Down the stretch, Rice.
Feels like you wouldn't put Rice in there unless he beat him, but I'm going to go with Cup.
Rice did outscore Kupp. Cody knew it was a trap. Justin Jefferson or Rod's guy, Brandon Ayuk?
Jefferson. Ayuk
Jefferson.
cooled off at the end of the season. and
did. He
Jefferson
really
kind of
did.
tore it up at the end.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because
George-
it was what's his face that kind of Mullins that got him the ball quite a bit there in the end too.
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh,
Former
good old Nick
49er.
Mullins.
Yep.
George Pickens or Justin Jefferson?
This might be close because Pickens had that one really big game, but I still think it's Jefferson.
I think it's Pickens.
Although Jefferson's at week 18 was more big than I'm thinking of. Yeah, I'm going to go with Pickens too.
Pickens did
Mhm.
outscore Jefferson. And here's a name of players that outscored Tyreek Hill in the playoffs, just for some fun facts.
It's a long
Wan'Dale
list.
Robinson, Jamal Agnew,
Husker.
Alex Erickson, Lil Jordan Humphrey, DJ Chark, and DeMarcus Robinson all outscored Tyreek Hill in the playoffs. Fantasy football, if anybody tells you they can give you the perfect lineup every single week, they are liars.
Yeah.
They cannot. Speaking
That's what makes the game so great, though, isn't it? It's
And
frustrating.
never
but it's
besmirch the
great.
name of Lil Jordan Humphrey. That man is a class.
right? Speaking of DeMarcus Robinson, would you rather have him or DK Metcalf or DJ Moore or Calvin Ridley in the fantasy football
I
playoff?
know this personally against DK Metcalf, but definitely Robinson.
Yeah. I wouldn't want any of those other guys
He,
at all.
he outscored them all combined.
Jesus.
Mhm.
He had a couple of huge weeks. I threw him in. I mean, I wasn't after the first 2 weeks. I was like, God, can you trust him? And I started him, and I was very happy I did because he tore it up.
It's because Cody listened to us give him out on the waiver wire.
I put him
Exactly.
in Dynasty.
Last one: Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, or Darius Slayton.
Well, I'm guessing Slayton because he's the outlier. And maybe did he outscore all three of them combined?
He was 2 points away from outscoring all three combined, which is insane to me.
Well, 2 points doesn't matter, right? If one doesn't matter.
That's right.
No.
If one doesn't matter, two certainly doesn't matter.
We're about to throw out 3 points too.
All right, do you want to take us home with tight
Yes,
ends?
let's do this.
Your
for
favorite
tight ends.
position.
Yes. And I know we've already talked about this, how I was off this year, but rookie Sam Laporta was the number 1 tight end this year, finished tight end 1. I thought it was going to be next year. That was my prediction.
You were high on Laporta,
Yes.
He carried me in that guillotine league. It was beautiful.
Yes, it was. So we are going to do Travis Kelce or Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts,
but
It's gross.
Boy,
But yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Yep.
Pitts outscored Kelce.
Dude, is Pitts like? Can we just like sidebar really quick? How much does his value like shoot through the roof having a real coach next year? I don't even know who the coach is, but anyone but Arthur Smith, like he's
going first round next year. Watch.
He might legit be be like tight end 1 next year.
Are you bringing your passion back?
My Pitts passion.
Is it gonna
may
stir
return.
that up?
Wow. I got a whole cup full of it over here.
Missed that Pitts passion.
I saved it for you so I can give it back to you when,
Yeah, there
when
you
the time
go.
is right.
Yeah, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson.
All of them, like
all of them got
it's gonna be beautiful.
Mhm.
because they have to bring in a coach that is agreeing like, okay, you're going to use these guys. We've spent draft
Which is
picks on
probably
these guys.
anybody who's
Carroll.
ever seen a football game besides Arthur Smith.
Carroll to the Falcons.
I did hear Pete Carroll's
Ooh.
planning on staying with the Seahawks as an advisor. We'll see
That's
what
what it
happens
sounds
there.
like. Putting the old man up in the office.
Put Grandpa to bed.
That's beauty.
Yeah.
All right. Cole Kmet or Evan Ingram?
Ingram. He
I was gonna
ended
say
the season
pass.
on a tear.
Yeah, it was Evan Ingram. It definitely was.
Ingram
It
was
wasn't.
like,
It was
was it
Kmet.
really?
Yep.
Well, it was a Bears question. We should have known that. Jeez, come on.
Tucker Kraft or George Kittle?
Kraft
Kraft.
was big
Yes.
at the end.
Yes. Kraft.
Kittle had good impactful plays, but he never had a statistical day in the last few that made you go, damn, that's the tight end 2 for next season.
Kittle is just
Mhm.
he's so boom or bust. It's annoying.
But it doesn't matter because the guy is an all-around football player, and
Well,
that's
he is.
I
It's
mean,
great.
for
It's great the
fantasy
team,
sake,
but
for fantasy sake, you
Yeah.
don't ever want to draft him. But for as a football someone who watches the 49ers, I'm glad that dude's on our side.
oh yeah.
It's because he learned from the
Oh,
best
yeah.
best.
Iowa
Iowa.
Hawkeyes.
The only thing Iowa has to offer, tight ends.
Didn't we talk about this the other day? There's a
I
whole
feel
list.
like we had this conversation. John Wayne, Miranda, and tight ends. It's the top
Jason
3 things
Momoa.
to come to
Jason
mind.
Momoa, but he wasn't born here. But I guess we raised him. So
We raised him.
we actually raised Momoa. We didn't want to tell you guys, but
What a story.
isn't he? Is he younger than you?
yeah, he
He's
is.
not younger than me.
I don't know if he's younger than you, but I'm sure he's younger than me. Most people are. It feels like.
All right, I've just got
What's the rest of your list, smartass?
Juwan Johnson or Dallas Goedert.
Juwan Johnson, I think, ended the season fairly decent because Carr kind of went off at the end, and fucking Taysom Hill didn't do shit. God damn it, Taysom.
He sounds
So yeah,
better
Juwan
about that.
Johnson. I had a lot of Taysom Hill this year. and
It
hurt me
was
at the
Juwan
end.
Johnson, and that Field of Dreams was on my list.
Yeah.
So
best
don't forget.
baseball
I didn't
movie there
forget Field of
is.
Dreams.
Juke says, "Don't forget it."
Oh yeah, she did list that in her list.
I
Field of
did.
Dreams was part of it.
Nobody asked me if I want to have a catch, or else I'm going to be balling all over the place.
Shout out to Mama Mark in the chat too.
Mama Mark, hi.
She says we raised Momoa. I don't know if that means I'm Momoa. Have you seen that commercial where he like takes off his muscular arms and he's really
Yeah.
skinny and stuff? It's actually me
That's
under
hilarious.
Momoa's suit.
That's a good one. Yep.
Oh, all right. Last one for you guys: Travis Kelce, Jake Ferguson, Darren Waller, or Juwan Johnson.
Juwan Johnson.
I'm going to say Darren Waller. as a surprise.
Nah,
entry.
Waller didn't do that much at the end.
All right. Johnson outscored all three combined.
Okay.
That's
All
a
of
win
us.
times. That's a win times 3, right?
You know what? I wasn't in the fantasy playoffs in a lot of mine, so I didn't pay attention.
And you both win because we didn't keep track of points. Congratulations. Everybody gets a trophy. Let's shift it back to NASCAR.
Yeah.
You mean
I
NASCAR
lost.
or you mean F1?
Either one.
Both.
Either one you guys want to talk
Whatever,
about.
yeah.
I also want to hear what your Daytona 500 bets are.
That's what you
So yeah, give me anything you guys want to. You again are in the driver's seat.
Well, so I'll tell you one thing right now. If you listen, of course, to us and you listen to our show, you know that super speedway betting is Cody's favorite time of year. It's like Christmas in February or in wherever they go to Atlanta or
If you like to
Talladega.
sweat a bet,
Oh my
man,
God.
super speedway betting, oof, it gets you going.
That's the one thing about it too. So for those of you who don't and really aren't aware, Daytona 500, the sport of NASCAR starts the entire season with the crown jewel event, with the Super Bowl, as it were, with the greatest spectacle in racing and all that other good stuff with the Daytona 500. It is what they consider a super speedway race, which means that these cars are going to be racing at similar speeds in very close proximity with each other. And they do what's called pack racing, or used to be called draft racing, where, you know, the car in front of you cuts a path through and it makes room for you. There's so many aerodynamics that I wouldn't even be able to do it all justice. But suffice it to say that these guys are traveling at high speeds, close quarters. Sometimes they fall back. Sometimes they go forward. Their positions are never stable through the entire race. So you can have a guy who's been in first place, let's say, for lap after lap after lap after lap, and then maybe he pits and the rest of the field doesn't pit. Well, now he's back in 25th, but then like a few minutes later, he's back up again in the 10th, and then he drops back again because he's scared that he's going to get wrecked out, and so he'll drop back to 30th, and then he'll climb his way back up to the front. I mean, more so than in mile-and-a-half races, because this is where the pack stays together closer than in those races where it gets strung out. But like Cody said, man, you can be watching your ticket and the dude's in the front, and you're like, yes, I've got this nailed. And then 5 laps later, he's in 30th. You're like, what the hell just happened? Like, oh, I'm dead. So yeah, it's always a crazy day.
Yeah, like Rod said, it's amazing racing. That's what leads to the big spectacular crashes you see is the super speedway type racing, which when it comes to betting, that can be volatile, of course. We always kind of give the speech when you go into the super speedway races, like basically just playing on losing all these bets, but there's so many opportunities to hit big bets, and that's what makes it fun. Only outrights are out right now, and the good thing with that is anyone can win at a super speedway. You go to a mile-and-a-half, you go to a short track, there's only a select group of drivers that can really have a shot to win the race. The super speedways, probably all but the last 3 or 4 guys, and they still technically have a chance and could win it if they do play their cards right. And I think it's been 75 to 1 or higher that's won the last 3 Daytona 500s for outrights. So
Wow,
you can hit a big ticket to start the season. But yeah, that's a place where we're going to take long shot top 10s, long shots, top manufacturers. Those are always fun. Make sure you bet on Corey LaJoy if you learn nothing else on this podcast at the super speedways.
65 to 1, by the way, currently
yes.
on DraftKings.
Make sure you get in on that. And I will ladder him, to win top 3, top 5, top 10, top Chevrolet, all of the above, take him in head to heads. But yeah, super speedway betting is the most fun way to do it. It's a great way to get into it. And actually this year, our first 2 races are super speedways after the Clash of the Coliseum. The first 2, regular season races are at super speedways. A lot of fun. If you wanted to get into DFS, that's great because it literally is a dart throw. There's almost no set strategy in DFS at super speedways, which we'll talk about on our show as well. We cover the DFS as we lead into it. So yeah, it's a ton of fun. But the real betting will start week 3 when we get to a quote unquote normal track. But the most fun I have betting is on the super speedways, and opening the season with 2 of them is going to be a hell of a good time. And yeah, we'll have all the picks in the week leading up to it when all the odds drop, and we've got a ton of options because it's a lot of fun, and you have a chance to really hit some very big tickets at races like that.
Yes, sir. And honestly, if you're holding my feet to the fire, we know that Cody and Corey LaJoy are like. In fact, I don't know where he is, but I'm sure he's not far
He's
away.
right here. He's always really close. Look at that. Is this
Just
not the most beautiful
right
man
there,
you've ever
instant.
seen, Miranda?
Look at-
He's gorgeous. The flowing hair. And he's a great
gorgeous
super speed.
race.
My prediction, he is going to he's probably going to win the second race of the season at Atlanta. So, if he wrecks out in the first race, that's all right. We're going to load back up on him in Atlanta. But, boy, if he wins the Daytona 500, I will be the happiest man on the planet. Often joke that I am the president of his fan club because big fan.
Indeed, he is. And then for me, look, I want to take a roll on John Hunter Nemechek. He's now taking over the 42 car Inspire. It's a new team. It's a new Toyota's got a new lease on life for the Legacy Motor Club. And at 50-1 right now, I think I like John Hunter coming back into the series for a second run. A guy that can pack race. Toyota's got a little more leverage now with a couple more cars in this pack, so they're not necessarily all that strung out. We know Chevy's a pretty big player in that race, and then so is Ford. But I think the strides Toyota's making kind of puts them back in the forefront. And out of these long shots, for me, I'm gonna take John Hunter at 50-1. Probably the last guy I really feel comfortable, unless you want Voldemort at 55-1. And by the way, Voldemort for us is Daniel Hemrick. But yeah,
his name's not allowed to be said on our show because he's cost us a lot of money in the past.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask, what's the story behind that?
He single-handedly, in a super speedway race, I had higher than 15-1 tickets on first, second, third, and fifth place.
Oh, fifth,
and in one wreck, he took all four of them out and completely destroyed my day. So he's dead today.
He who shall not be named.
Yeah,
No.
he planned that.
In fact, wait, hold on. We also have a little bit of fun with it because anytime we go to say his
we'll
name,
be saying if you want to make this bet on. There you go.
Love it. What about Jack Wood? You guys placing? That's a Truck Series driver,
He
right?
is a Truck Series driver. That's Justin's favorite driver.
Yeah.
Don't
help
bet
it
on
with a
him.
name like Jack Wood.
If you
At
want
least
to, if
you
you
got
want to
Jimmy
find a
Johnson.
way, if you
I got two names for one,
if you want to find a way to bet on Jack Wood, bet against Jack Wood. That's the best advice I can give.
Unless you're a teenager.
Oh my God.
Miranda, I have a list of the top favorites for Daytona 500 here. Pick one and tell me who's going to win. There's nothing like putting her on the spot, right?
Which name is the prettiest? That's what she's looking for right now. whose name sounds the coolest?
Joey
That
Logano.
was mine.
Well, I took
Oh,
it.
look
There
at
you
you
go.
guys. Hey,
Yeah.
he was champion in 2022.
Yep.
It's an even year.
Former 500 winner. Yeah, he does. So he has a thing for even years. He's much like the San Francisco Giants. He's made the Final Four in the playoffs 4 or 5 different times, and it's only been in even years. So it's his year potentially.
Good job, Miranda. All right, Justin,
I was going to pick him, but I'll do something different.
Sure you were.
I
You give me
was.
this whole list
Only
and not
because
one
I've heard
name.
them talk about
Okay.
Joey Logano. I'm going to go Ross Chastain because I know you guys have
Okay.
talked about him too.
The Melon Man.
The watermelon
18-1,
man.
not bad.
Yeah, he's a volatile pick. He can be a little aggressive at points, but he's won Super Speedway before. He won Talladega last year, so he can get it done.
I can't pick Kyle Busch until they put him in the Busch car. Like that
Well,
just rubs me wrong.
That's the sad thing is Busch left. Kevin Harvick retired this year, and Busch so they left him, and they were looking for a driver, and it's like the obvious one is Kyle Busch. Like imagine the marketing around that.
Right.
But they did go to Ross Chastain, whose nickname is the Watermelon Man. He's a 5th generation watermelon farmer from Florida. So if there's not a watermelon Busch Light, not a Busch Light fan here, as I work for Miller Lite in my day job, but they're really missing the boat if they pass up on that marketing campaign.
Speaking of boat, they're both like having sex in a boat, effing near water.
Damn.
Not a light beer fan. Sorry, Cody. I always when I listen to you guys throw out names, the name I always want to bet is Bubba Wallace because Bubba just sounds like a name that should be good at NASCAR. I don't know why.
It's not. Nope. You just pissed
It just sounds like it. He's not though.
Nick hates him. No, Bubba's a great and really for Daytona 500, like he's a great bet there. He's probably one of the. I don't have the odds right in front of me, but he's probably pretty high on the board there because
Oh,
He's one of the
Bubba,
best super
20 to
speedway
1.
drivers. Yeah. Is he really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
He's longer. He's longer odds. He's longer odds than
yeah.
than
Go bet that. That's a good
Keselowski.
bet. He's very good, and he's been real close to the 500 a couple of times. He's about to have himself a big season, so I like it. Yeah. Oh, there's Nick. That's what. That's
there
what
it
I was
is.
saying.
There it is.
Nick's the
Did
avid
not
hater of
disappoint.
Bubba.
I did text him when you guys were doing your show last, and he was in the chat saying that, and I said it's 2024. You can't say you don't like Bubba. But anyways, what else do you guys want to add before we talk? We just got a little touch on fantasy football left before we get to the whiskey, but anything else you guys want to add over NASCAR, F1, any type of racing? I know you guys you're doing shows 5 days a week, right?
Yeah, we got 5 days because, well, first of all, we talk a lot, and we have all 3 series that we cover. And then, not to mention, too, we've found ways to add in like SRX, like Cody was talking about. That's kind of like a superstar racing experience. There's Formula E odds right now, so we're going to get down on that on the F1 Gambling Podcast. There's IndyCar. I mean, listen, when motocross gets going, I want to get that. I mean, listen,
if it's racing and you can bet on it,
we're pretty much
one-stop shop.
Get in. Yeah. So if you really do get that itch over the off season, if you're listening to the listening to this on the Old Fashioned Football, and you want to get down on some action and have something to watch and pay attention to, I guarantee you start with NASCAR. That's fine. That's great. Start with the Daytona 500, please. Well, actually start with the Clash. You'll enjoy the Clash. That'll be your introduction to it, and then follow us down the rabbit hole. And before you know it, you'll be asking us if we have Australian supercars odds to talk about. And, that's how far down you'll go with us as we go down this hole.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. I mean, it's just like you guys' show, right? Like you come for the fantasy football advice because you know what you're talking about and you're really good at it, but you're a great combination as well, right? You know each other very well. Obviously, you're married. Rod and I, not married. But it feels like we are sometimes on the show. So it is. We're 300. What are we? 325 episodes into the NASCAR podcast. We're 50 episodes into the F1 show. We've done other shows together and we come off pretty well, I think, together. We work well together. So we make it a lot of fun. And we're there to give you the picks, which we do, but also to talk about it and teach you about it and what we're looking at and how we're getting there. It's not like, okay, pick this driver, pick this, that. Okay, you're gone. Like we do talk for a long time sometimes, and then maybe too much at points, but it's a lot of fun we have. And yeah, 5 days a week we cover, like I said, all 3 series, which is fun. You can get into it, even if you're not a racing fan. Give it a shot. You'll be surprised how quick you get hooked. We had a few guys check us out last year because we were on the main show. They came over and listened to us, and then like throughout the season, they became some of our bigger fans in the Discord. Like always interacting on the shows and having a good time. It's a lot of fun. It's not just left turns and follow the leader stuff. There was so much more to it. Like we said before, like the race within the race is a lot of fun, and you start to learn the intricacies of it. And there's really a lot going on in a single race. I noticed, I think it was Always Fresh, Never Soggy. It said he lives like 30 minutes from Watkins Glen. If you're close to a NASCAR race, go to it, or even just your local dirt track or whatever local track you have. Like racing in person, it's an experience like none other. You will fall in love with it, and we're here for that.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off what you said, like I said kind of at the beginning of the show, never was really a fan of racing NASCAR. I haven't gotten into it. I've placed bets on it from listening to you guys. Didn't watch the race, but still won money. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
I've done that.
Everything Miranda wants to hear at that point.
Right? I did zero work and made money. I mean, who can complain about that? But no, I mean, I tune in because you guys are entertaining, even when it goes over my head, because I don't know all the drivers or I don't know what race is coming up. Like you guys are entertaining. It's fun to listen to. And Cody's a Husker fan, so I wouldn't just say that just to say it. I mean it. So
that's true. That's true.
Also, I don't know.
Like you don't, like I said, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but we have a weekly contest too. In the Discord, we do a $5 DraftKings DFS lineup every week. So like you can go up against us. the thing I remember to think, God, I totally forgot what I was going to say. And I'm now forgetting again because I got sidetracked. But you don't have to pay attention to like what's the next race, what's coming up. Like it is a long schedule and it goes over a lot. Like we've got you covered. We've got the breakdown. This is what the track is. This is what it's comparable to. Like, and there's a lot that goes into, building the bets. It's not just, oh, this guy finished first last week, go bet on him, because each track has its own set of unique circumstances. Different teams are better at tracks. Different manufacturers are better at tracks. Year to year, things are different. Sure, you could go back and look at the last 10 races at a track, but it's a completely different car over the last 2 years. So you want to take the smaller sample size. You want to look at other things, and we do that for you. So you don't have to be paying so much attention to everything that's going on, because we're paying attention to it. So since we're paying attention to it, we might as well relate to you.
And not just for the main series too. Like Cody said, we cover all three. And so when you start taking into consideration some of these younger drivers, right, and some of these truck drivers, that's a lot of drivers to pay attention to. And yeah, you could get lost in the weeds, but we know that, this year, all the new truck drivers that are coming in, replacing some of the ones that are going up, and then the Xfinity drivers that are leaving to go to the Cup Series full time. And I mean, we've spent countless hours and ignored our children to the point where we know what we're talking about. So if it's good enough to not go to my daughter's recital over, then it's good enough for you to know that we'll lead you in the right direction.
Yeah. I mean, we were at the Fantasy Football Expo and we ran into a guy by the name of Seth. And I knew that Rod knew him. And I said, oh, Rod and Cody, we know them. And he said they are the best in the business when it comes to racing and NASCAR, and 100% agree. I mean, not that I'm listening to a ton of podcasts, but I don't need to, because I get what I need from you guys. So it is fantasy football off season. So just one question before we get to the whiskey, because I know everybody wants to try this whiskey.
I'm waiting. Let's go.
I know. It's the off season. How do you guys handle the off season? I know Cody's already drafting.
There is no
now.
off season, Justin.
Yeah, but do you guys take a little break? Do you just follow the news? Are you tinkering your dynasty leagues? We'll start with Rod. How do you handle the off season?
With a lot of alcohol. No, it's
NASCAR.
I was going to say it's much different nowadays, because before I used to Jones for fantasy football season to start again. And as soon as mock drafts started, I was always on my way to go into one of them and start mock drafting. But now that NASCAR is pretty much dominating the off season, honestly, I take a break. Like, I love the fact that I don't have to think about how many catches DJ Moore is going to have this week, or, how many yards Purdy's. I just enjoy the fact that I don't have to worry about it until, like, I would say August, or maybe or early. What was the month that comes before August? June, July, September. Whatever the month that comes before August is, that's when I start worrying about it. So yeah, I love it. NASCAR and all the other, like, Australian football. I think of other things. CFL, right? Now the UFL, all that stuff dominates my brain over the off season.
Daryl said, why not start with Cody? My answer is much longer. There is no off season to fantasy football. Currently in 2 startup dynasty drafts, one with you guys, of course. Just got into another playoff contest. There's the FFPC, playoff best ball going on. Dynasty league. If your dynasty league doesn't roll over and go straight to having waivers now, making trades, like, you should be doing all of that stuff. Got to start getting ready for the rookie drafts. Those are coming up in a couple of months. So kind of paying a little more attention to the incoming rookies, making your moves for the drafts. As soon as the Super Bowl's over, best ball for next season starts basically the next day. You got to start getting in on those. So yeah, it never ends, and it always continues, and that's why I love it.
But that cuts into my pickleball following.
Like, you can follow pickleball and draft teams. I don't see the problem.
Bro, I only have so much space in my head. Do you want me to be good on the show or not? That's all I want to know. If I'm following Australian rules football, pickleball, extreme tag, and NFL, then what good am I?
See, that's why I just stick to NASCAR and NFL, because they're the 2 best. So.
Well, whether you're like Rod and taking a little break from it, or maybe you don't want to read the news and you want us to look into it, we're going to keep covering it all off season. If you're like Cody and you're doing some drafting, we're going to have some auction mock drafts, because auction was kind of where we started, but it's not a ton of people have done it. We found out in fact, we have them do their first one. They're like, oh, we really like the auction drafts. So we're going to have some, Cody's one of them.
Yeah.
So we're going to have some auction drafts, mock drafts, kind of help you get prepared there. We're going to cover all the offseason news. We're going to have Colby Dant on again to talk about college players because nobody knows college football like
for the
Colby.
draft. And
yeah. So we're going to be getting you prepared. But we also talk about whiskey. And we're going to have distillers on. And right now we're talking about WhistlePig Piggyback. So they're located.
One thing real quick on the off-season thing. Huge difference in how I play fantasy football from when I was more casual and didn't pay attention in the off-season to keeping up to the off-season, even if it is just listening to podcasts like this. It helps so much because you're constantly in the loop with changing teams, with changing coaches, changing philosophies. There is a lot that goes on year round. And if you're trying to cram it all in right before the season, not that you can't, Rod, but it is nice to have all of that through the off season, and it continues to shape your thoughts and mock drafts or best balls, whatever, like it keeps your drafting mind sharp, I think, in the off season, and helps you as you go into the next
absolutely agree with you because before we were doing the show, I took a break after the fantasy football season was over. I took a break and then I was cramming in preseason, like before preseason, all that stuff. And there is so much that goes on in the off season. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So much. Even when you're talking about contracts and people not getting the contracts they want, and then the holdouts and all the drama. There's so much drama in the off season. That's
there is a lot of drama. That's for sure.
It's crazy.
And even down to we talked about Pete Carroll being fired. I mean, that's going to change that offense. Arthur Smith being fired. It's going to change the value of those players. Will Geno still be the guy without Pete Carroll? He might not be. And that could affect the value of DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. I mean, there is a lot.
Drew Lock.
I do think Drew Lock has a shot. I mean, the way he came in at the one game that Geno was out, I thought he played gritty. I mean, he showed some toughness. He made some throws. Still a pretty young guy. I mean, I don't hate that move, even if it is just to be another kind of bridge quarterback. I do like Drew Lock for sure. So you guys have listened to us. We've said it before. Taste your whiskey, smell it. Whatever you smell, whatever you taste, you're right. We've even had plenty of distillers on that have told us there's no right way to drink or enjoy your whiskey. If you like it, like Rod, you said you might want to put ice on it at some point. That's okay. If you want to drink it straight, that's okay. If you want to drink it with a bunch of Coke, I don't recommend it, but that's okay. Used to be a huge Jack and Coke guy back in the day.
I got my Coke.
There you go. But yeah, you guys can taste it, kind of think about what you're tasting. But I want to just talk about the distillery a little bit. It's located in Vermont. We did do a WhistlePig review already, so we covered them more in depth, but it was started by legendary whiskey maker Dave Pickerell, who passed away in 2018. And they were actually one of the first distilleries to start making premium rye. Most of the rye whiskey out there at the time in the 21st century when they started was like $20. There weren't a lot of quote unquote high-end rye. WhistlePig was one of the first that said, hey, everybody loves bourbon. Everybody's leaning into this high-end bourbon. We want to lean into some high-end rye and try to make the best rye we can, because rye was kind of an afterthought. And that's what WhistlePig did. Miranda, do you want to talk about the specific one, or do you guys want to talk about Alfa Romeo, which I found out is no longer a team?
Yeah, Alfa Romeo, no longer a team. F1 is something that we cover, so check out the F1 Gambling Podcast. Alfa Romeo is putting the pin in that name. Now they are the Stake F1 Kick Sauber team, is what they ended
horrible.
up.
What a horrible
team.
What? Yeah, exactly.
Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber. That is their official name.
I thought it was like steak A1 sauce, not F1 sauce.
They used to just be the Sauber F1 team, and then Alfa Romeo came on as their, the car, the type that they were driving. Alfa Romeo's leaving F1, and they're going to be with Audi now from going forward here. But and so that's why they changed the name. Still the same team, still not a team that you're probably going to bet on a lot because
Well, listen, they have Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu. I mean, Guanyu is one of the guys that you can put him in for a points finish every now and again. Bottas, one of the better drivers in the league a while back, kind of cooled off. Obviously, the equipment's not quite as good as he was used to driving back in the day, but I don't know. Maybe this infusion puts a little jolt in him. You're not gonna. I mean, look, if you're going for Guanyu in a top 6 position, you're kind of stretching. But I think for solid points finishes week in and week out, you could probably pick your spots and take either Bottas or Guanyu. But Alfa Romeo was sort of one of those backmarker teams that was never really going to crack into the points unless Zhou Guanyu ended up doing it. So, yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating. I mean, you want to see them do better, but like Cody said, I don't know that you're going to be betting on them quite a bit this season.
Yeah,
and I guess go ahead, Cody.
Just to touch on betting on F1 real quick. If anybody has seen F1 lately, Max Verstappen is basically like setting all the records, dominating the sport. And so everybody's like, how do you bet on that when he wins? I mean, he's literally like minus 350 to win the championship this year, which is an absolutely ridiculous number. We had a race. I'll read the sheet of our winners here from the Dutch Grand Prix this past season. We hit 33-1 on a top 2 bet, a 28-1 on a fastest lap bet, a plus 625 on a podium bet, a plus 175 on a top 6, plus 500 on a double points finish, plus 135 on a points finish. And the number of race leaders, the exact number was 2, plus 175. There are so many other ways to bet on F1, just like with NASCAR. Even if Max Verstappen, and you can literally in F1 bet on how far Max Verstappen's going to win. Is he going to win by 10 seconds or less, or going to win by 20 seconds or more? It is a lot of fun to get into. And really, Rod and I hadn't been into F1 until a couple of seasons ago with the NASCAR thing going. And then I was like, man, there's these odds for F1. Like, kind of look, I've been a casual watch it from a distance fan for a long time, but getting into it, it's a lot of fun. And don't be deterred by the fact that Verstappen wins a lot, because there's a lot of ways to bet on it, and we have a lot of fun.
Nice. And I kind of buried the lead there, I guess. If you didn't hear at the beginning of the show, the reason we're talking about F1 with this whiskey is this is I guess it's picked by the Alfa Romeo F1 team, which is no longer a team, and that's why it's hard to get. Miranda did get me another bottle because you see this one is getting a little bit low for Christmas.
Because you cheated and you tried it. We were all supposed to try it together.
I couldn't help it. It was an accident.
And when you were sending their handshakes to them,
I tripped.
I accidentally drank that whiskey.
It just fell into my mouth.
Yeah,
we could take this down as fast as an F1 pit stop and be done in about 2.5 seconds.
There you go.
But I will allow it to settle on. I like it. I taste the exhaust. I taste I taste a lot of the rubber that gets laid down on the track. So
a little scent of burning race fuel. It's good.
Race fuel in that one.
Oh my goodness.
A little driver sweat. I felt that come through as well. Little Zhou Guanyu sweat in there. So great job.
You laugh at that, Miranda. You go to a dirt track, and the part of the racetrack is in your food and drink.
Well, it might be
wonderful.
in this based on how they
why
made
don't you
this.
tell us how it was made?
Well, now that we know that the Alfa Romeo F1 team is no longer that, but this is what it is. It's the limited edition Piggyback Legend Series Alfa Romeo F1 team steak barrel. It's a high rye whiskey that was selected by the then Alfa Romeo team or their drivers, and the barrels were trialed in their wind tunnel to ensure a thrilling taste in every sip.
So really, all those things we just said are completely true.
Yes, yeah. So yes, fuel.
I'm in the DRS zone with this now, so we're gonna pick up another 17 kilometers an hour.
Kathy also trips and drinks whiskey by accident. It's obviously genetic. We can see where Justin
it runs
got
in the
from,
family.
so.
Mercy, my mom does it too.
See, this is where you get it from.
I will admit to not being a giant whiskey drinker. So like this is. If you see an initial reaction to my face, it is not indicative of how I think the whiskey tastes.
It's okay. This is a very unique flavor for whiskey.
Yeah.
Very unique. I feel like you can
as
soon as your nose gets near it.
Yeah.
But it was bottled at 96.77 proof, which was a nod to Valtteri Bottas. Oh my, you just said it. What?
Valtteri Bottas.
Valtteri Bottas.
Hey.
I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome because you're saying these names that I have to now say, and I didn't know how to pronounce them, and I still butchered it. So it was a nod to him and just the precision of racing, and it's inspired by Zhou Guanyu.
Zhou Guanyu. Yep, good job.
Yep. Who is the first Chinese F1 driver. So, and then I already mentioned, it's finished in that lychee and oolong tea.
Yeah.
Which gives it like such a unique flavor. That's what we're tasting.
Yeah. So
and the exhaust and everything you said from the track
I
and
taste the
some
wind
dirt.
from the tunnel.
I was like, wait, that is wind, isn't it?
The wind just kind of hits you in the face.
Yeah.
It smells fantastic. I'll tell you that right, man. I really enjoy the smell, so I may just leave this in here just so I can smell it.
It does kind of have a fruity smell. Yeah.
Well, that's
if
the
you're
lychee.
if you're joining us for the first time because you listen to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, I think Ryan, the owner and head distiller at 10th Mountain, which Rod was in. Oh, Rod's that way. I get confused with it. You're that way. But anyways, that Rod was in. He said, we're not hoity-toity. That's a great way to describe us. We're not hoity-toity with our smells and tastes. We just kind of try to give you what we're not going to be like, yes, I smell the finish of that barrel. They used a number 6 barrel and charred it for 20 seconds. I have no idea.
You will never hear me say the mouthfeel. You will never ever hear me describe a mouthfeel in your life. If you do,
though,
check on me.
Texture is becoming something I have noticed in whiskey, though. There are some that are kind of thicker,
more syrupy.
Yeah, that is some, but I would not say mouthfeel either. I would say texture. Mouthfeel, that word just kind of creeps me out in itself.
Like
the mouthfeel.
No mouthfeel.
No
for
mouthfeel for me.
I'm a beer salesman in my day job, and I should be good at that kind of stuff, but I'm not. It's like either the beer's good or it's bad. We've got a guy. We've got a guy who can tell you like down to the hop that they use, what country it came from, what county in the country. Like, I'm just like, it's a good beer, or it's a bad beer. I don't know.
Coder's review is either thumbs up
or thumbs down.
Do you have anything else on this?
A little bit. Well, and I think I have questions from this because I don't know if I quite understand this. So the trial barrels that were tested in the team's wind tunnel in Switzerland before hitting the track, they then went and endured varying levels of G forces at the WhistlePig farm for the finishing touch there. And they say like that accelerated the interaction between the whiskey and the wood of the barrel. What does that mean?
So I'll tell you right now, when you talk about the speeds that these guys pull, I mean, there's upwards of 200 miles an hour that these F1 cars go, and they're pulling some ridiculous G-forces into some of these corners. And NASCAR on a normal track, right? I mean, there's a considerable amount of G-force and there's a considerable amount of downforce, but to the extent that you are going, and in some cases, especially through these straightaways, you're hauling ass through these straightaways. You got your DRS wide open, which is the rear flap, and then you're like slamming down into these corners at ridiculous speeds. You're pulling a lot of G's, and these guys are under a lot of force in these corners and these turns and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, if the whiskey is put through the same thing as these race car drivers are, then this has got to be a hell of a move.
I mean, if you think about the way that throws it around in the barrel.
Yeah. Well, and because normally when you're aging whiskey or anything in barrels, it's just sitting stagnant.
Yeah.
It's not moving. So
and an F1 car during a typical race will pull from 4.5 to 6.5 Gs. A fighter jet pulls 9, just to compare like how close they are to pulling what a fighter jet pulls.
Which is why when you hear when they're driving by, all you hear is highway to the
Love it. Rod said 200 miles an hour. That reminded me, my first car was a 1969 Ford Galaxy, and I bought the sticker that was NASCAR themed of at 200 miles an hour, you have no friends. So that brought up a good memory of that.
I love it.
Juke saying, geez, I think he was surprised of your awesome singing. I don't know what the G's was too.
Yeah.
That's what mine. I mean, my kids are probably.
Rod is a professional musician, so
For sure.
That's true.
Oh, I completely forgot. I have videos that I didn't play.
Oh my gosh.
I can't
Oh
forget
my
the videos, guys.
we have not seen these videos, so we're unsure if we approve or not.
Apologies for you listening on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast feed. I don't know what the hell you're about to hear.
So who's Sebastian Vettel? Can you tell me that first?
Sebastian Vettel.
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 Yeah.
He's an F1 driver.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I saw this video just while flipping, and I thought of you guys, and I thought I'm gonna save it for our crossover. So hopefully it plays for you and doesn't lag.
Yeah, I have no idea. I haven't seen these, so I am just as in the dark as you guys.
And if you're listening on the pod, I will take these out. So go to the YouTube on either the NASCAR Gambling Podcast or ours to see the videos. But here's Sebastian.
There's something loose between my legs, apart from the obvious. So something flying around my feet.
Okay, copy.
I'd be proud if it was what you think it is, but it's not.
There's something loose between my legs, besides from the obvious. And then he says it's by my feet. It's not what you think. I don't know. Just crack me up.
That is a
I
great.
gotta update the F1 Gambling Podcast.
Yeah, we've got a pretty good intro, but that video might need to be added.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. So when these guys are talking to each other all the time. I mean, there's so many radio conversations that they'll play for us, and then I'm sure there's ones like that probably never made the cut. But like, there's constant communication between these guys. And
what's crazy, that video you just heard, he's probably doing 200 miles an hour while he's talking, and that's what you hear is just him calmly inside of his helmet, and he's going to pass someone and joking about the thing dangling between his legs, pulling while he's pulling 5Gs. So.
Oh man! And then if you tune into NASCAR, you might hear Cody say some stuff like this.
I don't love to be on guys at long.
Oh no! What? Oh, you don't love being good.
Sorry, Cody.
Thanks.
He did add odds at the end, long odds. I just might have cut that out. And then
I was taken out of context. All right.
And if you don't know, Rod is an actor.
Oh yeah.
And I got two different things from Rod here.
This average father of three get his son out of jail, so he could bring him home to the kind of justice a jail just can't deliver. His justice. Grandpa's, sisters, mom's justice, and little brothers.
Now, Rod, were they actually hitting you?
Absolutely. That was definitely method acting, because every single time they were smacking me upside the head. We did so many takes that day, and I was like, by the end of it, I was like, I need hazard pay for this. In the Army, we at least got extra pay when we got smacked around this much. So can I please up my ask? And they're like, nope, flat rate, buddy. Sorry. So,
and the first clip from the movie Bottle Shock, which had Chris Pine in it, right?
Sure did. Captain Kirk, man, was in. I was in a movie with. I tell you, and him and Bill Pullman. Just a real quick Bill Pullman story. I love this guy. So he comes busting out of his tent. We're the very first day we're there. We're all crowded around. We're just sort of standing there, and all of a sudden we just watch this door fly open, and there's Bill Pullman, larger than life. If you don't know, president from Independence Day, go watch it. The dad from Casper, go watch it. But he's standing there. He's like, takes this deep breath, and he goes, this is where everybody wants to be. We were in a vineyard in Sonoma. Beautiful country. And then he comes up and he's just like, hi, how are you doing? He goes and shakes all of our hand, asks our name, blah, blah, blah. Later on that day at lunch, sits down with us, eats lunch, tells us about his ranch in Montana. Just this magnanimous actor, right? And then at the end of the day, as we're leaving, and we're extras, by the way, we're nobodies on this set. We're vineyard workers. Like I'm picking grapes most of the day, and I'm not doing it for real because I still wouldn't do it right. So he says to us, by name. He's like, bye, Jeff. Bye, Omar. Bye, Rod. I'm like, dude,
that's cool.
Like, the president of the United States just said goodbye to me. So love him. I will always sing his praises.
That's awesome.
Yeah, check out Bottle Shot because Rod is in it multiple times. At this opening scene, there you are in the background picking your grapes, like you said. But my favorite is when you just have that serious look. You guys are in that scene watching a lady, and she's getting wet from the hose. You just go check it out.
Piece of acting I've ever had to do. They sat down and they said, "You are eating lunch. You're watching her hose down a wine press." And I said, "Okay,
okay.
This is how I'm spending my Thursday afternoon. Let's go."
You're like, I can do this. There was one other clip of Rod on a steak, but I decided not to to bring that one on. It seemed
That's a crucifixion one. Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Yes, the crucifixion. Rod's hanging there as the man is explaining why crucifixion was basically such good torture, and why not good torture, but
My back's not the
works
same
very
after
well.
that, by the way. That hurt getting stuck through the midsection with the steak.
Yeah. Real quick before we go, check out Rod's link in bio on his X account, and you can see all those. But what do you get from this? I get a lot of tea flavor.
The lychee
little
stands
fruit.
out the most to me. Think about car engine fuel, all that stuff, and then drink it. And do you taste it now? you can
All right,
taste anything if you think about it.
Right. Agreed. Power of suggestion. Let's see if we can drink this fuel.
No.
I taste some bubble gum.
Now I taste bubblegum. What the hell?
Oh my-
It works. No.
The lychee and the tea really stand out to me. We've been in certain like different cocktail bars, and the bourbon with like some tea infusion have always been some of my favorite drinks to try, because the tea always stands out so much in the bourbon. And I don't know, this is really good.
Yeah, no,
It's very different.
I'm a big fan, obviously. Miranda has a like tray in her office that has her special whiskeys that I have to ask if I want to try.
Well,
She
and
said.
this is why, because you go and like you fall and it just lands in your mouth.
It's genetic. He has a medical issue here where it forces him to accidentally drink whiskey. And then his dad comments and says that his side of the family purposely drinks. So you mix the two things together. What do you expect from the guy?
Yeah, it's not my
Exactly.
fault.
Battling genetics here.
Mom and Dad Mark, we are all having a fun part. When we come down to Iowa, let's all have a good time.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I do keep the unopened bottle that we have that you got me for Christmas. I keep that in my office so that you aren't accidentally drinking it.
I am not the guilty one for that.
That's all I have. Fantasy football, NASCAR, F1, everything. It's awesome having you guys. I know we talk a lot anyways outside of podcasting, so it's awesome sitting down and doing a podcast with you guys. Final thoughts, last words, not last words. You're not getting crucified. Don't worry. Final thoughts on where everybody can find your work. Oh, and your favorite wrestler of all time in honor of Rod's piece on wrestling.
Oh, okay. That's good. So, listen, for those of you who are listening on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, I certainly hope that you guys took something away from this, because Justin and Miranda, as you can tell, with Mama Mark saying you guys come over for sure, have a great time.
Hey, we might be there for some races this year. So
yeah. Hey, listen, you be careful who you extend that invitation to. But I hope that you guys, you've heard their ad on our show several times over, and I'm hoping that you guys have gotten to know them as a couple now over the course of this episode, because as you start your fantasy football journey and continue on, right? I mean, this is a great time to start now to get to know them as the offseason progresses, because then you're just getting to know them and they're talking about fantasy football, and then you can start taking their advice and winning your leagues and having a good time doing that. But honestly, this has been an absolute blast with you guys. And I hope both of our listening bases appreciate just what we had in this episode, because it was chock full of a lot of good hang. I know that all of us listen to podcasts, and episodes like this are the ones that you remember more than the picks episodes, because you're like, oh, these guys had such a great time. So follow me on X. I'm on X, as my listeners and our listeners like to say. I'm on X at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, just like Justin said, to everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, whether it's in between media, all the stuff that we have going on. Cody and I, F1, soon to be super motocross, kids, go-kart racing, whatever that's going on that's got odds, we cover it. And just a lot of fun, guys. I'm so glad that you guys thought of this crossover episode. And like I said, I hope our listeners got something out of it. Your listeners got something out of it. My favorite wrestler of all time, Undertaker, hands down, was one of the guys that when I was growing up, kind of I grew up in the 80s, so it was Hulk Hogan, it was Iron Sheik, it was all those guys, right? It was the heyday of the WWF. But then the Undertaker came and it all changed. Like that dude, hands down, every time I watched him wrestle, it was just amazing. Like, and he had such a long ass career, went through so many different personas, right? He was the dead man. He was a badass. He was running in on bikes and all that other good stuff. So it's sad to see him go, but I still love The Undertaker, man. There was nobody like him in the sport.
You could have left a couple of nice things for me to say about them and about this episode, but since you covered it all.
You should know by now, Cody, that's not the way this works.
I know. No, this was a great episode. This was a lot of fun, just hanging out, having a good time. So hopefully everyone enjoyed it. Again, if you are one of our listeners, you haven't heard Justin and Miranda before, highly recommend. I'm a avid podcast listener. I listen to a lot of different podcasts, and you guys are always one of the top shows. I always try to catch it right as, if live when I can, or as soon as it hits the podcast feed. So love you guys. You're doing a great job. 100 episodes in plus now, which is great. Offseason can be fun. FFPC, I'm excited to hear you guys do those lineups because I've got some of my own FFPCs to do. So that's great. You can find my work on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Husker_Zeeb. And then, check out the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Check out the F1 Gambling Podcast. Look, football's almost over. College football's done. We've got the the NFL playoffs, but that's almost done. I'm a college basketball fan now that Nebraska knocked off number 1 Purdue last night, which was beautiful. But otherwise we suck. So, there's not much else going on but racing this summer. It'll get you through until next football season and even past then. Not a big wrestling fan, but how could you not be a fan of somebody named Cody? So I'm going to go with Cody Rhodes, who is actually on Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale Earnhardt Jr. Has his Dale Jr. Download podcast. Cody Rhodes did an episode with him this summer, which was pretty sweet. That's a really good episode. Go check that out. Just kind of walks through his story and his life and everything, and it was great. So I'm going to pick him as my favorite wrestler.
That's cool. I don't know if I liked him as a wrestler. I didn't watch a ton of him wrestling, but he's
I've seen absolutely none of him wrestling. But
he's a very cool person, though.
Yeah, his storyline could take him into the main event of WrestleMania if WWE does not throw The Rock and or CM Punk back in there. So you could be wrestling for the championship this WrestleMania.
Cody.
Quick Cody Rhodes story. Aside from the fact that he also loves Whiskey Wednesdays, he's a whiskey fan, but he was wrestling and somebody had a sign that said, "Cody, will you be my best man?" And after the match was over, the cameras had stopped rolling. He asked the guy, he's like, "When are you getting married?" And the guy told him a day. He said, "Can you make it a weekday? Can you get married on a weekday?" And the guy was like, "I think we can change it." He goes, "Then yeah, I'll be your best man." This person he doesn't know, but he knew it would just make their day. Was going to be their best man. I thought that was really cool. We have my dad and Juke 72 saying the Ultimate Warrior. Little before my time, I didn't watch a lot of him wrestle. Of current people, so sad. I mean, I don't watch a ton of wrestling, but so sad to see Wyndham Rotunda pass away, who was he was better known as Bray Wyatt or The Fiend in the most recent. The way he did his storylines and everything was just amazing. He was a great showman. Also a huge fan of The Undertaker growing up. Just the way he would get the shit kicked out of him and then just sit up. Like, it was just so iconic. Like, you almost got chills as a kid watching it. And then it was a big... Yeah, right. Sorry, as a kid.
What are you talking about?
Stone Cold was great. I was a fan of Bill Goldberg when he came on the scene. Terrible wrestler, but just his overall power and strength and everything was cool. Nick says R.I.P. Bray Wyatt. Just as a weird, odd one, aside from his outside wrestling life where he got really bad into drugs, Jeff Hardy. I loved watching Jeff Hardy because that man put his body on the line for the show, for just the sport. I mean, he broke so many different bones. Him and Mankind, they just broke so much, putting their bodies on the line for entertainment. So you can find us at Old Fashioned FB. You can find her at the Mark. Who's your favorite wrestler? Do you have one?
I don't have. I'm just gonna throw The Rock out there just because. Dwayne Johnson.
He's back.
No, I can't.
He's back.
I didn't watch wrestling, so I was just, let me say it. You and Mr. Nick Fortune in the chat there would do the watch the Royal Rumble. It's the Royal Rumble.
Royal Rumble, yeah.
Royal Rumble. And if it's betting, fine, I would do it.
You put money in, everybody gets numbers, and if your number wins, you get the pot.
Yeah, we 1 through 30.
You won on Roman
That's
Reigns.
another. I do that. I do NASCAR pools like that where you get.
Nice.
assign numbers and you get random guys.
So
It's great.
when we would do that for that, yes, I
remember you won on
watched
Roman
because I was
Reigns.
winning. Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't like Roman Reigns though. I don't know.
You
I
also
don't-
won the Women's Royal Rumble on why can't I think of her name? She used to be the MMA fighter.
Oh, Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
You won
Yeah.
the Women's Royal Rumble on that. But anyways, yeah, Nick saying you won a lot. Guys, you got anything else to add before we get everybody out of here?
I think we're good. I think we've had
I think we could talk forever if you really wanted us to.
I think we probably could. Maybe we'll have to do another episode where we cross over, talk about NASCAR, talk about fantasy football, and talk about whiskey.
Mhm.
Thank you guys for joining
we'll
us.
need your favorite NASCAR drivers next time. So
Yes.
study
All
up.
right.
Study
Jack
up.
Wood.
NASCAR. And he's not.
He's a NASCAR truck driver.
Yeah, he's truck.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, we need
technically
Cup
NASCAR.
Series.
It's NASCAR. Yeah.
Yeah.
Truck Series is NASCAR still.
Yeah. And Bubba Wallace, Jack Wood and Bubba. You guys know how we like to end this. I know you end it with the let it ride, but we end it with going once, going twice.
So
Old-fashioned football.